Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zia and today I have me trying out some infamous Pinterest DIYs for you guys. Now I, as well as many others, have found themselves on Pinterest looking through a bunch of different DIYs saying, I want to try that, and well, never doing it, or asking myself if it actually will turn out like it does in the picture. So this video is a collection of 5 inexpensive DIYs that I have always wanted to try from Pinterest with my own little twist or winter touch. The original Pinterest links will be listed down below. I would also like to thank Bojesher for reaching out to me and sending me their amazing hot glue gun, which made these DIYs just that much easier. I will also leave the link down below for their glue gun if you'd like to look into it on Amazon. Now let's get on to the rest of the video. So for the first DIY, I am making hot glue snowflakes, which are very simple to make. All you need is parchment paper, a printout of some snowflake designs, and of course a hot glue gun. To start off, I placed the Snowflake Stencil on my self-healing mat and taped it down with my blue painter's tape. Then I placed a piece of parchment on top and I tried to secure it down with the blue painter's tape, but it doesn't stick. I switched to masking tape and it didn't do much, but it held a bit better. And then I just filled in my snowflakes with hot glue. Once they are cool, you can peel them off from the parchment paper and you are done. I kept them plain, but you could add glitter to them, paint them, turn them into ornaments, anything your heart desires. For the second DIY, I got everything from the dollar store. You will need a plate, a bowl, and a candlestick in any color, and a glue gun. To start off, I began with the plate down in front of me and I added hot glue to the bottom of the candlestick. Be careful and make sure that you place the candlestick directly in the center. Add some pressure and then move on to the bowl. I placed hot glue on the top of the candlestick this time and then placed the bowl on top and centered. Add some pressure while it cools and you are done. I have seen this tier so often being used for jewelry or cookies and treats, but I decided to add a piece of this garland that I found at Five Below for only $3 and wrap that around the center, and then add a white candle in the bowl at the top. I think this one turned out so cute. For the third DIY, I am making a woven basket. You will need a small basket. I found mine at the dollar store. Rope. I got mine at Walmart and I did need both skeins. I used like 1.5. And lastly, a glue gun. This basket is pretty simple to make, but I warn you, it takes a really long time. It took me at least an hour, so make sure you set aside time for this one. So because of that, I won't be showing you guys the entire process because that would just be boring. But the basics are that you just add hot glue as you go along and wrap the rope around till the basket is completely covered. This DIY took a long time, and remember that you can always spray paint the basket first so you can't see any of the color through the ropes. But honestly, I didn't have any problems skipping this step, and once it's filled you can't even tell. This DIY turned out so well. For the fourth DIY, I am making a glass candle cover. I've also heard this being called a lantern. You will need 4 picture frames. I found these at the dollar store and mine are 8 by 10. You can always go smaller. A glue gun, and some type of decoration for the inside. Here I have a candle and some more of that garland that I used for the second DIY. To start off, I began with removing all of the backs from the picture frames and just leaving the glass. Now you can remove the metal flaps and outline the entire frame with hot glue, but I just left them. So I bent them back into place and then added a dot of hot glue to each corner and moved the glass around a bit so the glue would seep into the crevices while it was still wet, and then repeated this process for the other 3 frames. Now that all frames are ready, you want to place one frame down in front of you and add glue to the second frame on one side and attach it. Make sure to hold it till the glue solidifies enough. Do the same on the other side with the third frame. I went back in and added more glue to the corners of the frame to help strengthen them, and then I moved on to the last frame. I added glue onto both sides of the 4th frame and placed it on top. When the hot glue dried enough, I flipped it over and then reinforced the other 2 corners of the frame with more hot glue. And now this DIY is done. This DIY came out a bit bigger than what I expected, which is why I mentioned using smaller frames, but it still looks good, especially if you have a lot of decorations to fill it with. I ended up adding 2 candles on the inside since mine are smaller. I just offset them with something underneath the red candle, and then I wrapped some of the garland around them both. This final DIY is my favorite of them all. These custom jars turned out amazing. You will need a glass jar. I will be doing 2 of these. Plenty of paint. I will leave the individual paints that I used for each of them down below. A pair of scissors. Painter's tape if you want to protect certain parts of the jar, a paintbrush, and a hot glue gun. To start off, this is an optional step. I wrote out the saying that I wanted to outline on a piece of scrap paper beforehand, and then I placed it on the inside of the jar and taped it down with my painter's tape. As I said, you don't have to do this, you can always freehand it, but it does make it a lot easier. Now it's time to outline the entire saying in hot glue. Be very careful with this step. Also remember to be mindful of what font you choose. Very thin and delicate fonts can look great, but are difficult to outline in hot glue. A thicker and fluid font is best. Let the hot glue dry, and then you can remove the stencil from the inside. Now we can move on to the second jar and do the same thing. Since this is a longer word, you want to be mindful and to not accidentally smudge what you've already outlined. Make sure your early letters are dry before you rest it on your workspace. Now it's time to paint. I started off with a white coat of paint on both jars. This is always a good idea to allow your colors to be more vibrant. I didn't want these to be super clean looking, so my brush strokes are a bit messy. Also, I was running out of my white paint, so I had to go between my matte and glossy white paints, but it doesn't make a difference since they are just an undercoat. Now let's get into the real color. For the cheer jar, I started with a light silver color, and while I allowed that to dry, I coated the joy jar with a light blue. Exact colors are listed down below. And to apply the light blue, I used a sponge stick so the consistency would be uneven because I wanted the white to mix with the light blue color. I then went back to the cheer jar and used the same technique to add a darker gray onto my jar. I worked back and forth with the paint till I liked the way it looked, even removing some paint here and there to give it a more rustic finish. And then I added some sparkle. I have this paint that I just love. It's supposed to be a light gray with glitter in it, but the gray is so transparent that it's great to use as a top coat to add some glitter without coloring your base coats. And the last step that I have for these jars is to add some ribbon and a little bow. For the joy jar, I used a thin silver ribbon that I wrapped around the entire top of the jar and secured with hot glue. These jars from the dollar store didn't come with lids, so I wanted to cover the grooves. I did the same thing with the cheer jar, but I used a white, almost transparent looking ribbon instead. After you add the little bows, these are complete. These jars turned out beautifully, and there are so many things you can do with them. I do encourage you guys to add a top coat of some sort to them, otherwise they will chip over time. I do think the joy one is my favorite overall. The shorter word just looks better to me. Well, that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed me trying out these Pinterest DIYs. If so, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, and if you liked me, then please subscribe. Thank you.